Cam and Company. We jump into the conversation this afternoon. A town in Georgia wants to pass an ordinance requiring residents to own a firearm. So is that a pro-gun move or a big government overreach? You can tweet us at Cam and Company or at Cam Edwards or at NRA News. Use that hashtag conversation. We'll share your thoughts later on in the program. Right now, I want to welcome to the show my colleague, Jenny Simone, NRA News investigative reporter. It's good to have you back, Jenny.
Hey, good to be back. Georgia, so is it Kennesaw, Georgia? Is that what they're talking about?
No,
or is that another? Because Kennesaw already requires that.
Exactly. Kennesaw did this back in '82, and now
time ago.
Now the town of Nelson, Georgia, wants to follow suit. They said, "Well, it's worked for Kennesaw. It should work for us."
Yeah, and I remember when I went out there and interviewed guys in law enforcement, they used to say when they used to make arrests, the suspect would say, "Why the heck didn't you tell me?" I didn't know there was a gun in every household. It was a great story back then, and it fits today's world for sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Now, one of the other stories we've been watching here, this overreach, not by the government, but by the press, going in, getting the names of gun owners, concealed carry holders, using these government records, using Freedom of Information Act requests, which, by the way, I'm a fan. I'm just not a fan of having gun ownership records made public. And you were up in New York talking with some of the, let's say they're victims
they
of
definitely
the
are
local
victims.
newspaper.
And some of them have been victims not just once, but now by the paper. But what's interesting is that in Governor Cuomo's SAFE Act, he has a lot of the gun owners think, well, he made a stipulation that the names won't be released. But it's interesting, under his act, what you have to do now, Cam, in New York, is you have to file a request with the county clerk requesting that your permit information be kept private. And then it's up to that county clerk, their discretion, as to whether that's going to happen. So you may be protected and you may not be protected. And your name may still very well be out there so that it can be released. And I talked with a woman, and as she told me, she lives in fear every single day because of what the Journal News did to her.
All right, let's take a look.
The Journal News endangered me by exposing me for no reason at all.
The nasty battle in the Hudson Valley after the Journal News published the names of thousands of people who have gun permits.
The names and home addresses of the gun permit
In the New York counties of Westchester and Rockland, interactive and gun map, a treasure map for bad guys.
They didn't just post a map with dots on it that showed you homes in a neighborhood where the holder of a gun permit lives. They did something far worse. Names and specific addresses were exposed. I just remember gasping, and I was very frightened right away because I have an ex-husband who once tried to kill me and had sworn he'd find me again to finish the job. I fled to New York, my home state. I moved around quite a bit. I spent years looking over my shoulder and gaining safety for myself from this particular person. And my own newspaper, my own local paper, exposed me in a way it would be nothing at all for him to find me.
Why do you think they were so determined to do this?
They won't answer except to say we have a right to do it. And to say we have a right to do it falls flat. Judy, there was no reason for this. There was no journalistic benefit to be advanced by doing this. None of us on that map have criminal convictions, have done anything to anyone. Why should we be punished? There was more information provided by the Journal News than they've ever provided about sex offenders in this state. More information than they've ever provided about convicted criminals in this state. It's a violation of privacy, but it's more than that. It is, in my mind, a connection that has been made between political view and a press that is willing to push that political view in the direction of anti-Second Amendment rights. It's scary. It is an unholy alliance, and there's no question in my mind that that is exactly what it is. In order to advance an anti-gun and anti-personal protection agenda, it's not just here in Rockland County or Westchester County, but throughout this country.
And really, when you look at what the Journal's done, hasn't it put everybody at risk?
Oh, there's no question. I began hearing from neighbors and friends, some who owned weapons and others who did not. It's a menu for whoever wants to break into a house and believes that the people who own that house are unarmed. And it just seemed to me a huge invitation for people to simply take the list and pick their victims.
Twists in the drama over a New York paper's decision to publish the names of law-abiding gun owners. The paper has now hired armed guards to protect them.
Armed guards are stationed outside the Journal News offices. Armed guards, yes, that was very much the height of hypocrisy. It's most frightening and it's most appalling, and that's another reason why I decided to speak up, because I know I am not alone, and I know that what has happened to me has happened to other people, and it should never happen to anyone, Jenny, anyone. I realize that there are frightened women out there. I'm frightened too, but many of these women cannot speak out, even under the cover of no lights or a change in their voice. This is this country gone mad. There is no reasonable explanation for any of this. The balkanization of gun owners has to stop. I obtained a gun as a result of my ex-husband attempting to strangle me to death. It was a very surreal experience. It was a very frightening experience. And I was very grateful to police agencies who had suggested to me, and in fact encouraged me, to obtain a permit for personal protection. But I would be a fool to think that I'm safe in light of the exposure that has taken place. And just because one night goes by and 2 nights go by and nothing has happened, that doesn't mean that it's not going to. Those of us who have obtained weapons legally have a right to own them. We're not the ones who pose the threat. We're not the danger. The danger is with those who want to cast us as somehow being outside the norm, bad, wrong, not worthy of support, not worthy of having a right, not worthy of being an American. It's more frightening than the thought of the abuser finding me is that my whole way of life is threatened, that my government doesn't care about my rights and doesn't feel it's obligated to respect them. And what makes this country different is that it ensured in the Constitution and in the Bill of Rights that the citizens have rights. We don't serve the government. Our government serves us. And if we forget that, we place ourselves in a very, very dangerous position.